Good day. I want to go over do a deep dive with you for the geometries for today, October 5th. We already discussed earlier in the previous video for today the geocentric conjunction here of the Sun, Mercury, and Jupiter, as well as the lunar conjunction with Saturn and the elongation with Neptune, and we're crossing the gravitational path connected to the Sun and Uranus. So what I want to do is go over these with you, and we're going to go ahead and load this data from there. So what I want to do is wipe out the previous data and go ahead and take out the tides. And we're going to go ahead and look at what we have here is the geometries for today. So our geometries today are as such. So we have this is in the realistic perspective. Now when you look at these geometries, the first solar system scope screen that comes up is your orrery. You want to go to the realistic, and here we have a partial lunar conjunction with Saturn. Now tomorrow this will be in full effect. We also have a Mercury Jupiter conjunction here. Now there's no lunar connection. However, this is such a strong connection because of the fact that we're joined with the solar magnetic field that is positive. If you remember in the last video, I showed that we had a solar wave that was coming. There was a coronal hole, and trailing behind it was a very strong positive magnetic wave, and Mercury is diamagnetic and resonating in the negative fashion. So this will actually cancel out a little bit from Jupiter and Sun. And then we have also an elongation with Neptune. So the moon is approaching this. Tomorrow this will be full, but right now it's just approaching it. So as we go back and we load our data, first we want to get the tides. So we go over here and we pull our tide data. So we have 6:05 a.m. as the tide for the first low. So it's 06:05. And then we have 12:23 as our high, and this is also the second high because they're doubled up. If you see, there's two lows and one high. That means the two highs are stacked. So 12:23 is the other high. So the other low is 18:32. 18:32. So now we have our tides loaded. So we're going to want to go ahead and load now our planetary data. So this is going to come from the NASA JPL, and this will help us to differentiate the different planetary factors. And now I've loaded this for Miami because Miami, most of the quakes occur in the northern hemisphere. Miami at the Tropic of Cancer is pretty much the median. So we've loaded the planet data. We can go ahead and wipe out the earthquake data for 2.5s and the earthquake data for the all quakes. Now we can go ahead and load this data. We'll go ahead and load the all data here. And we have to remove the additional things that the USGS wants to know, and we're going to filter out these puppies for all the earthquakes. So we only want the earthquakes. We're going to delete the query blasts. So now we got our data for the all quakes. Go ahead and load this in here. Make sure that all the formulas here are current all the way to the bottom. So now we need the 2.5. we'll go ahead and load this in to 2.5. Remove the extra columns and then pull the data in. I don't see any query blasts or anything there, so we'll pull this in to the 2.5, paste, make sure it lines up, which it does. Alright, so now we have our quakes all loaded. Let's go and look at this. We got our we've got everything loaded here with our sun, so we've got the rise times of the planets, and we look here, the planets here, we see Uranus, you know, because if you remember, we're crossing Uranus connected path. We have a lunar elongation with Neptune, a lunar conjunction with Saturn, and a geocentric consection with Sun, Jupiter, and Mercury. So if we look here, we see Uranus at median. That's a big quake driver. Now, all these times here you see are local times. So every single earthquake that came through the USGS, I have gone ahead and converted all those quake times and to their epicenter time. And now what we're looking at is a graph. So this is the NASA JPL data on the top and the USGS data on the bottom. So we have Uranus at median popping these quakes. Now we also have sunrise and Jupiter rise. That is the conjunction there that is resonating, and man, it is really pulling. So we move along. We have the moon rise. Moon is in elongation with Neptune in conjunction with Saturn. So we see Saturn rise and the moon rise, and then all of a sudden we have a deadening. That is because there's a magnetic cancellation going on between Jupiter and Saturn. So this deadens all quake effect until a little later when we have Saturn that is pulling up. And when it gets to median with the moon median, we have a series of quakes here. So next we get to the Jupiter-Sun conjunction here, which pops quakes at sunset. And then when Uranus rises, we get more quakes here, because Uranus, we're crossing the connected path, and then it starts to ramp up for Neptune. So that is today's earthquake analysis, and when we look at this with the magnetic perspective, we can see a bit more. That what I want to highlight on this is that we have Uranus and Saturn are at geocentric opposition, and they're kind of magnetically flip-flopping. So we get to see a little bit of a transition here. Uranus is traditionally green, but that's popping at Saturn. And then you have Uranus pulling on the red, which is very odd. But that is the conjunction, or the geocentric opposition of Saturn and Uranus at median here. So then we come here to Jupiter rise. Jupiter rise is pulling the green, which it normally pulls the red, but that's a problem because it's in opposition to Neptune. Neptune is on the other side of the Earth from Jupiter and the Sun. And then we come up over here. We have another alteration, and then red again at moon rise. Moon is now in conjunction with Saturn, and Saturn pulls on the red. So if you see here, moon rise, Saturn rise, they're conjoined. You have a red pull here, everything flatlines. Then you have again moon median, Saturn median, bang, pop, 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 pops up some quakes in that magnetic area there. And then we have back to the sun. If you see here, the sunrise pulled the blue and the green. It also pulls the blue and the green here. And then we have Uranus rise, which now has pulled the blue. So we have magnetic flip-flopping. It's really quite crazy when you start to look at this stuff. So hope you enjoyed my report, and take care, everyone. God bless.